All right, now it's time for me to work on the eyes. So as you can see from my painting, I finished the ears. I've done the overall fur, leaving out the black, of course. I'm doing the undertones. And so now I'm going to work from top to bottom so I don't smudge anything. I'm gonna do my eyes first, and then I'm going to move on to the next part, which is the nose and the mouth. So when I look at my reference photo, I'm gonna start with the color of the eyes first, making sure that I'm looking at the lightest coloring. With watercolors, remember, we can always add layers on top, but it's sometimes harder to take color away. Once I'm done with the color in the eyes, I'm gonna let that completely dry, and then I'm going to work on the black around the eyes, and I'm going to use a wet on wet technique. I'm also using a Lunar black for the eyes. The reason why is because it has some really nice granulation that kind of mimics the fur. You can see how I used a Lunar black for the ears. By granulation, we mean that you can then see the individual granules from the pigment. And what that does is it allows for the underlayer to shine through. So especially for German Shepherds, where you have a little bit of the color underneath, but you do have some black on top, it's gonna allow the color to shine through. It also is going to give us this dotted effect without actually having to create those dots ourselves. So the granulation with Lunar Black is, I use in almost every single pet portrait that has black. And then I'll go back in at the very end, and wherever it's not granulated, so like around the eyes, inside the nostrils, where I have those deepest black tones, then I'll use a different black that's not granulating, or I'll use a micron pen. So here we go, let's start with the eyes. All right, now with my eyes, I've already have the white of the masking fluid. Here's my masking fluid that I used for the white of the eyes, for the reflection of the eyes. And I already have my marker down. I'm going to use my color, but only color the iris. I'm not going to color the pupil quite yet. That I'm gonna wait for the black. So I'm gonna try not to hit on this purple of the marker. But you can touch the purple of the marker. It's not going to actually spread as much as you think it's going to spread. I'm gonna do both eyes. Now I'm doing a lighter shade first, and then I'm going to lift up a little color from wherever it's slightly lighter in my reference photo. And now after some color is lifted, I'm gonna come in with and drop a little bit of a brown, because I do notice that the eyes are more of a deep brown in this corner. Same with this in the upper corners. It's a little bit more of a deeper brown. All right, now this I'm going to let dry completely before I start on the black of the eyes. This isn't going to be the final eye tone. This is just the first layer. And then once it dries, I'm gonna see what other colors I need to add. Okay, so now we're ready for the black. Around the eyes, I made sure that the colored area of the eye is dry. And before we do, I want to show you a different German Shepherd that I did recently. Around the eye area, this is kind of the illusion we want to make of I'm starting with a wash of Lunar Black around the eye. And then I'm using the same technique, the wet on wet, where I'm going to drop in darker shades of Lunar Black around the parts of the eye that actually need the darkest shades. I'm also going to be doing a light shade of Lunar Black around the upper eye area wherever it's needed according to my reference photo. So let's start. So once again, I'm making sure that I'm going with the hairs, the direction the hairs are going in. Hey.
Ya, apagado.
And with a clean brush, I'm coming in and making some of these hairs come across where it looks like they do. Lightening up some of them, but also darkening others. And now I'm going to drop in some of the darker lunar black wherever it looks like it's needed. And if some of the purple undertones are coming through, that's okay. I do want some of these purple undertones to come through. And I'm to the part where I need to now start blending with the lower part of the eye. And wherever it's extending to the fur, I don't want it to be that sharp of a line. Dropping in some of my darker lunar black. Keeping some of the lighter areas light. And then I'm gonna find a good spot here in the mouth to stop so that I can focus just on one section at a time before it dries. All right, now I'm just gonna go in with a wet brush, a clean wet brush. I might add a little bit darker where I notice it needs to be a little darker. Softening where it needs to be softened. not worrying about the inside of the eye yet. Right now, I'm just worrying about the outside of the eye. All right, now that it seems like I have my base colors around the outside of the eye, I'm going to work on the inside of the eye. I'm still using my Lunar black and realizing that it's not going to be the darkest tone that I want, that I am going to come back in with a truer black, something more like a McCracken black or a Micron pen. So now I'm going to add some of these details, lining the eyes. In most dogs, they do have a dark crease along the bottom of the eye. And then I'm also going to come in with some of my black in the pupil. Now, not every dog's eye is going to have a circular pupil. I'm noticing in my reference photo that the way that the light is falling on the eye here, I have a darker section of the pupil here, although I don't want that firm of a line, so I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. It's not completely circular. I don't have a circle as a pupil. All right, and I'm going to let this dry and see how dark it gets and if I need to add any darker pigment, but here's the left side of the eye. Once again, remember that we're using the same technique of a wash, a lighter wash of the Lunar black around the eye, and I'm dropping in some darker colors where it's dark. I'm cleaning my brush, keeping it wet, and dragging along some of these hairlines, but I'm mimicking it. I'm not doing all of the hairlines that I see. All right, now let's move on to the second eye.
Join me next Tuesday for our Tuesday tutorial where I'll explain how to paint the nose and mouth area of our German Shepherd. Happy painting!